Welcome to Art of. Today, we'll take this image and transform it into a stunning golden hour cinematic masterpiece. Join me as we separately color grade the background and subject, replace the sky, turn on the car's headlights, and enhance the golden hour atmosphere using the camera raw filter. We'll finish off with some final touches for the perfect look. Ready? Let's go! So, after all those edits in the previous video, let's start our color grading on the camera raw interface. I will start by adjusting the temperature, increasing it to improve the sunset vibes tone. I think something around +4 or +6 will be fine. I will set the tint to -3 to slightly decrease the magenta tones. That's enough for now with the color panel. Now let's move to the color mixer panel. Here, we will start by adjusting the hue of the red slightly, enhancing its reddish tones by decreasing them on the scale. I will increase the orange hue as it is the main skin tone, and minimize the reddish tones. Let's decrease the yellow hue to minimize the greens as the scene is about a golden hour mood. Here again, as you see, by manipulating the green's hue, the sky's color is changing too, as in this photo it is close in tone to cyan. So let's increase them to get that cyan tone in the sky. Actually, the aqua tones affect the glass of the car. We will decrease the blue hue a little bit. Now, let's move to saturation. Practically, we will increase the saturation on the warm tones, reds, oranges, and yellows, and decrease it on the cold tones, greens, aquas, and blues, and luminance. I will darken the reds to slightly dehaze the dress and brighten the skin by brightening the oranges. I will brighten the yellows as it affects the car headlights. Then I will increase the brightness of the sky and some parts of the car by increasing the luminance on greens, aquas, and blues. We can already see some changes and more contrast. Time to calibrate the colors. Here we will calibrate the colors to improve even more the golden hour mood by bringing more orange tint. I will increase the hue of red to +9 and increase its saturation by +3. I won't change the green's hue but will desaturate it by -16. And for the primary blue's hue, I will make it slightly more teal and reddish by -7 and saturate it by +3. We can add some lens blur, but it's not really necessary. So I won't dive deep into its details as we already have a depth of field and its adjustment won't make a big difference. Anyway, let's move to curves. First, we will adjust the RGB curve. Here we will slightly increase the contrast but increase the blacks slightly to create that faded black film cinematic look. I will keep the highlights the same and move to the red curve. By increasing the red curves on shadows and highlights, we are creating a reddish atmosphere that fits the image's mood. For the green curve, I will set just 1 on the input. Now the blue curve. I think I need to readjust the curves more. I don't like the magenta tones, so I will adjust it by bringing more green tones, as it is the opposite of magenta. Now it looks better. On the lights panel, I will improve the contrast by slightly decreasing the exposure and the shadows, and increase the contrast, highlights, and whites. I will slightly increase the blacks to keep that faded black film look. Finally, before final adjustments in the main interface of Photoshop, I will add some haze to the photo in the effect panel, which will brighten the scene and improve the overall look of the image. That's a huge difference. By clicking OK, let's go back to the main interface where we will add some lights to the subject's face and sculpt the shadows and lights on her face and body to add more depth. Just before doing that, I will add a color lookup adjustment layer and pick Fall Colors Look to add more orange warm tint, setting its opacity to 40%. To add some brightness to the subject's face, I will use a curve layer and brighten its midtones, then invert it, and use a radial gradient to restore the brightness on the face and her upper body. let's feather the mask slightly by 3.4 pixels. Time to create two new curves, a dark one and a bright one, then invert both of them and paint with a white brush to enhance the depth on her face, etc. I will set the opacity of the brush to 30% and start to paint over the dark and bright curves. This technique is known as the dodge and burn technique. I won't do it accurately, I will just improve the look slightly. Slightly darken some shadows to create more depth on the subject. Now let's set all those curves into one group and rename it Face. Even though these were really minor adjustments, they still make a difference. I will decrease the opacity of the group to 75%. I think I can decrease the opacity of the color lookup to 30%. To finalize, I will add some vibrance and slightly decrease the saturation of the overall image. And decrease the yellow saturation with a hue adjustment layer. Now let's set all our adjustments since the previous video into one group and rename it Color Grading. If you're still here, I'm glad that you watched the full video, and I will be so glad if you give me a thumbs up or subscribe, as it would encourage me to upload more videos. As always, may we meet again.